Roll, please.
Clack,
Here.
Foster,
Here.
Considine,
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
All right, that would constitute a quorum. All right. Have the minutes of the meeting of January the 13th for discussion and possible action. Has everybody seen those minutes?
Make a motion, we accept them as written.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. The motion carries. All right, we're ready to enter a public hearing.
I need a motion to enter.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to enter public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion carries. We're in a public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed in the public hearing, after consulting with the city attorney regarding the wording in the public hearing application, on the next to the last line where it says, builder is asking for amendment to plat requirements of 35 feet to be 29 feet. After consulting with the city attorney, we would like to, under a Scrivener's error, change that word from amendment to adjustment. And the reason for that is the word amendment has connotations that could require the filing of an amended plat for the subdivision or for that specific block of the subdivision. And this is a minor adjustment request, assuming that the application is approved or otherwise. But the use of the word adjustment versus amendment would be requested.
All right, that is in the application.
Yes. It's under the applicant, the description that's added there.
It listed both in the public hearing and in item 4, so you'd have to do it in both places.
Right, we'll cover the other one after you get out of public hearing, public meeting.
All right, so we need to change that to,
That can be made in the motion if that's how you so decide to do.
all right, do I hear a motion to that effect?
Well, you can go ahead and have the hearing,
Yeah,
right?
let's have the public hearing first, and then
Okay.
we'll go down to 4. We'll exit the public hearing.
All right.
This is just an opportunity for the public to, I assume that, anyone, there's no one here, obviously, but to ask any questions.
You're the
about
public tonight.
Linda, you get calls when you send out those, mailers, like, do I need to be there? Well, they're if you want
I
to,
did.
please do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, you're up.
My name is Danny Ragsdale, here representing RR Properties. That's Ragsdale, and Ragsdale, me and my 2 sons. In the spirit of Mark Twain, I'll keep this brief. I think it was he said, if I had more time, I'd have wrote a shorter letter, so I'll be as brief as possible and let you guys get out of here. But one of the things we've done in that addition is we've strived to keep the same characteristics of the neighborhood it's there currently. And by doing so, we'd like to request twofold reasons that this is allowed, because we're still meeting the UDO code of the 25-foot setback and the side setbacks of 10 and 5. We're well within those measurements there, those dimensions. And so we're requesting this for 2 things: to keep the characteristics of the neighborhood, not have that house set back so far. If you drive down that neighborhood and kind of go around that curve, you don't see it, and all of a sudden you'd see these homes. And then secondfold, it's if you've hunted for any property in Pryor and tried to find something, and one of the reasons we've had people come to us, it's got some mature trees. It's been there since the good Lord made them. And so we wanted to keep as many of those mature trees as we could. And the pictures don't do it justice. Me and you couldn't go wrap our arms, hold together, and go around them. They're huge. Took 2 minutes just to print a picture. No. They're huge trees, and right at this time, we've not had to get rid of one of them. And we'd like to continue in that vein to keep these mature trees. They're a valuable asset in that area. And we've got, a lot of different species, wildlife still in that area, and they still use those big trees and like to continue to do so. So, again, we're still meeting the UDO 25 and the 5 and the 10 setbacks. So, y'all have any questions?
No, so the plat was showing a 35-foot setback.
Yes, sir.
And the houses were actually built, well, there's only one house.
Right,
Of
one
the
is
two
actually
lots.
built about 29 and a half, somewhere in there, 29 and a half to 30 feet back, but we want to request that for this one and the next lot too. The next lot's even more cumbersome to set a home in there, so it helps on both lots to do that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for him?
Do we need to exit public hearing
Do
first?
we all
We
understand?
need to exit public hearing first and then go to item 4.
All right. Let's. Do I hear a motion to exit the public hearing?
I motion to exit public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard? Motion carried. So have exited public hearing. So, now does anybody have any questions for Mr. Rexdale concerning, the problem?
I don't have any
Do we
questions.
understand it?
Yeah, I don't have any questions for Mr. Ragsdale. I do have a couple questions for Steve, though, when he has a chance.
Before we go any further on item 4, I again like to indicate that in the event of any motion, the word amendment, we would like to see that changed on either one of those, 1 or 2, from the word amendment to the word adjustment, as a Scrivener's error. Okay?
All right. Do
I'll
we
try
hear
and
a
answer any question you might have.
Who is the binding authority for a plat? Is it the city or is it the county?
The binding authority for a plat holds with the city council. You are the reviewing agency you are the reviewing agency for a preliminary plat, and you
No.
are,
No, planning and zoning is.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Planning and zoning is the reviewing agency for a preliminary plat, and the decision-making body for the final plat is the city council.
Okay, and then once the plat has been adopted, then it does go through Board of Adjustments to make an amendment, or to make an adjustment upon.
Minor amendments like this, yes.
Okay. And then my other question was, I took it that the reason the setback was set to 35 was because of the frontage requirement?
Right,
I couldn't find the residential frontage requirement.
on cul-de-sac lots, pie-shaped lots like what we're talking about here, there's a minimum frontage requirement at the building setback line. And so the building, to get the minimum frontage on a pie-shaped lot,
Yeah.
it is typical that the 25-foot building setback is not sufficient to get you that tangent frontage length across there. So on those cul-de-sac lots, we typically set those back to an even number that gets you at or beyond that minimum frontage.
Okay. Is that pretty standard? Because I couldn't find the residential frontage. Like I found frontage requirements for commercial properties, but I couldn't find it for residential.
Yes, that's typical. It's 50 feet is what we require to have at the building line, would be a 50-foot frontage.
Okay. So would we need to make both variances then for both frontage and setback?
Well, no, in my opinion, no. I think if the controlling dimension is the building setback. So if you're allowing a variance from a 35-foot building setback established by the plat,
Okay, so the frontage would already.
something less, then you are, by virtue of doing that, allowing a different width across the front in this particular instance. I
And
think
if
that
you
just
were-
goes hand in hand. If you allowed a different setback on the back, or the sides, those are not defined, those are not defined by any kind of minimum width. The setback line, the front setback line does have the reason that it's in there is to provide that minimum of 50 foot. It really doesn't come into play on a rectangular lot,
Right,
okay, because it's typically on RS 50, all these lots are residential lot, or rectangular lots are 65, 68 feet wide at the frontage. So the 25 becomes the minimum setback line. But on a pie-shaped lot, the minimum frontage that you want at the building line is 50 feet. So if you allow a variance from that, you're just, and by nature of that, you're allowing something less than 50 feet.
Yeah, and if you drove by and look at it, you'll see, even when we're set back where we are now, not the full 35, we still got a front yard and stuff. It's real characterized by the neighborhood. It still looks just as big, and actually probably is just a hair bigger on that home that's there than the other front yards that's up there.
I'm gonna just jump in here and just go ahead and tell you what, in my opinion, staffs, and I'm gonna take I'm gonna step up here and tell you that what is the issue here is that this was identified by plat as 35-foot building setback. It was identified in the plot plan that came in for the building permit as a 36-foot setback at Mr. Ragsdale's request. When they went out, neither of those take into account mature trees or the look of the lot or anything of that nature. Typically, but when Mr. Ragsdale went out and looked at the lot and looked at the two trees that were there and the 35-foot setback line, clearly that was going to require the removal of one or both trees. And so the decision was made in the field to move that. So without, just hear the facts. The fact is that they made a decision in the field to move the house to adjust so those trees could be kept. What we would have liked to have seen would have been at that point in time, they would have come to us and said, this is what we want to do. They didn't, the builder did not. But we probably would have been at this same point, earlier on in the process, in support of doing that, because of the nature of the trees and the fact that this isn't a full cul-de-sac. It's a knuckle cul-de-sac, 90-degree turn, it's only a half cul-de-sac. And so, seeing it before it was built, I think I would have come to the same conclusion as I do after it's built, that because it's a half cul-de-sac, the house actually fits with the rest of the neighborhood. It looks more like a rectangular lot. It's in line with the other houses that's to the west of it. So it doesn't stick out, it doesn't protrude closer to the street than the other houses. It's in line with them. If it had been built to the 35-foot building setback, it would have been setting back, which is not unusual for a cul-de-sac. But in this case, with the mature trees and going to the 29-foot setback, it lines up with the other houses because the knuckle cul-de-sac just pushes it back in and of itself. The issue here is not necessarily that it would, we want to make this call every time. This is a case-by-case basis, and the shortcomings are widespread. We as the staff looking at the foundation and the footing, we should have caught the fact at that point that they had it staked out for something less than what was shown on the plat. We didn't. The builder should have come to us at the time they laid it out and wanted to make an adjustment, which would have been, positive in that nature, but they didn't. But we're looking at it now. Yeah, it's after the fact, and that's a situation we're going to have to deal with down the road. But it does not produce a house that's built that doesn't fit with the neighborhood. It does fit with the neighborhood, and I agree with the mature trees have really, enhanced that lot a lot. That's the whole story.
It's the house with the red truck and the driveway, and it's, looks in conformance with the house to the west of it there.
Mhm. One by five.
Okay, do we have any other discussion on the situation?
I mean, my take was, it's still confined, it's still, going in with the UDO code, which is 25. To me, that's the major overarching requirement. And the, like I said, the frontage, like, if 50 is the standard, like I said, I couldn't find anything in the code that actually specifically spelled out a frontage for residential, so I think if you don't have the frontage requirement, then the setback could easily be moved to 25 per the UDO, so I could find no problems with it. So, I'll make a motion that we grant the adjustment for Mr. Ragsdale, 25 feet
On both lots?
on both lots.
With the adjustment, with the Scrivener's error
Yes,
change.
yes.
Changing from amendment to adjustment on 1 and 2 of 4.
For block one only.
Yes.
Yes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None heard? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Danny, you'll want to have a copy of that action, so you can attach it to the abstracts. And that's what Kim said we need to do.
Karen, number 5?
Just attach, yeah, so,
Yeah, I haven't figured out
Right.
what's going on.
right. And it'll be part of the
Make a
abstracts.
motion to
Yeah,
adjourn.
fine.
Next time they
Yeah,
come
just
up
need a
with-
motion to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor?
Who made it?
Opposed?
Yep.
You made it?
I
He made it, I
Let me-
second.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let me know.
You guys.
Appreciate it, guys.